healed the wound on the alien warrior woman's arm, unaware she was the queen. The sky above the ash valley was the color of burned metal. Smoke moved slowly across the broken land, carrying the smell of heat and old fire. Pieces of shattered machines lay half buried in gray dust. The battle had ended hours ago, but the ground still felt restless, as if it remembered the screams and explosions. Evan moved carefully between the ruins. He was not a soldier. He did not wear heavy armor or carry a large weapon. His clothes were simple, worn and patched many times. A small medical pack hung from his shoulder, and a short utility blade rested at his side. Evan was a field medic by training and a scavenger by need. Where armies fought and left destruction behind, he followed, looking for survivors or anything useful enough to trade. He stopped and listened. The valley was quiet, but not peaceful. Silence like this often hid danger. Evan lowered himself behind a broken slab of metal and scanned the area. His eyes moved slowly, trained by years of surviving on the edge of human space. Then he heard it. A sound, faint but clear. Not the wind, not metal shifting, a breath. Evan turned his head toward the sound and followed it to a shallow crater not far away. Inside, something dark lay against the scorched earth. At first he thought it was a fallen weapon or a piece of armor. Then it moved. Evan's heart tightened. Someone was alive. He approached slowly, one step at a time. His hand hovered near his blade, not because he wanted to fight, but because fear demanded readiness. When he reached the edge of the crater, he looked down and froze. An alien warrior lay there. She was tall even while lying injured. Her armor was dark blue and silver, marked with deep cuts and burns. One shoulder plate was torn away, exposing smooth skin beneath. Her face was sharp and calm, with eyes closed, her breathing slow but steady. She looked nothing like the monsters from old human stories. She looked real. Tired. Hurt. Blood dark and thick ran down her arm and soaked into the dust. Evan swallowed. He had seen many species before, but this one carried herself differently, even in unconsciousness. There was strength in her stillness. Discipline. Purpose. He should have walked away. Helping an injured alien warrior could get him killed. Her people might return. Her enemies might still be near, and if she woke up and saw a human, she might attack without thought. Evan hesitated. Then he saw the wound clearly. The injury on her arm was severe. A plasma cut, wide and deep, still faintly glowing at the edges. If untreated, it would kill her within the hour. Evan sighed quietly. Damn it, he muttered. He climbed down into the crater. Kneeling beside her, he opened his medical pack. His hands moved with calm practice, even as his mind raced. He scanned the wound, adjusted his tools, and released a cooling gel designed for human burns. It was risky. Alien biology was unpredictable, but plasma injuries shared similarities across many species. As the gel touched her skin, the alien woman stirred. Her eyes opened instantly. They were bright, sharp, and locked on to Evan's face. In one fast motion, her uninjured hand grabbed his wrist. Her grip was strong enough to make his bones ache. Evan gasped but did not pull away. Easy, he said, his voice steady but low. I'm not here to hurt you. She stared at him, her breathing heavy, her expression unreadable. For a long moment, neither moved. The valley seemed to hold its breath with them. Then she spoke. Her voice was firm, calm, and filled with authority. Why are you touching me, human? Evan blinked. She spoke his language. Not perfectly, but clearly enough. You were bleeding, he said. Badly. I'm a medic. I'm trying to keep you alive. Her grip tightened slightly. Humans do not help my kind, she said. Especially after battle. Maybe they should, Evan replied. There was no anger in his tone, only truth. The alien woman searched his face as if weighing his words. Slowly, her grip loosened. Evan gently pulled his hand free and returned to the wound. If you want to live, he continued, you need treatment. If you want me gone, say the word. But if you pass out again, you might not wake up. She remained silent. Evan took that as permission. He worked carefully, cleaning the wound, applying sealant, and using a small handheld stitch tool to close the deeper tissue. The alien woman watched him the entire time, never crying out, never flinching. Pain did not seem to rule her. When he finished, the bleeding had stopped. The glow faded. The wound was sealed, though the scar would remain. Evan leaned back and let out a slow breath. That should hold, he said. I'll give you that. She flexed her fingers, testing her arm. Her eyes narrowed slightly in surprise. You used primitive tools, she said. Yet the pain is fading. Primitive doesn't mean useless, Evan replied. Sometimes simple works best. She studied him again, longer this time. What is your name, human? Evan. There was a pause. You may call me Kara, she said. Evan nodded. All right, Kara. Can you stand? She placed one hand on the ground and rose smoothly to her feet, as if she had never been injured at all. Evan stared. That's fast healing, he said. Our bodies are trained for war, Kara replied. Pain is a lesson, not a weakness. Evan wasn't sure how to respond to that. A distant sound echoed through the valley, a low hum. Evan's expression changed instantly. He recognized that sound. Scanners, he said. Someone sweeping the area. Kara turned her head slightly, listening. Her jaw tightened. They are hunting, she said. For me. Evan felt a chill run down his spine. Your people? No, she answered. My enemies. Evan looked around. The crater offered little cover. If scanners picked them up, running would be useless. This way, he said suddenly. He moved without waiting for her response, heading toward a narrow passage between two massive wrecks. Kara followed, her steps silent. They slipped into the gap just as a bright beam of light passed over the crater they had left behind. Evan held his breath. The beam lingered, then moved on. They continued deeper into the wreckage, stopping only when the hum faded. Kara looked at Evan. You risked yourself for me, she said. Again, didn't feel like much of a choice, he replied. Leaving someone to die never does. Her eyes softened slightly, though her posture remained strong. Among my people, she said slowly, saving a life creates a bond. Evan shrugged. Where I'm from, it just means you did the right thing. They stood there in silence, surrounded by ruins and dust. Far above them, unseen by Evan, a small signal activated briefly from Kara's armor. A pulse, quiet and precise, shot into space before vanishing. Evan did not notice. He only knew that the valley no longer felt empty. Something had changed. The valley grew darker as the sun fell behind the jagged mountains. Shadows stretched over the broken battlefield, making the ruins look even more dangerous. Evan and Kara moved carefully, staying low. The hum of scanners had disappeared, but they both knew it could return at any moment. Kara walked beside Evan, her arm still bandaged. She had regained strength fast, but she was careful not to push herself too hard. Her eyes scanned the surroundings constantly, sharp and alert. Evan noticed the subtle signs of her war training. The way she held herself, how her feet barely made a sound on the rubble, how she could sense even the faintest movement in the air. You heal fast, Evan said quietly. Kara gave a small smile. Humans surprise me. Your methods are unusual, but effective. I did not expect this. Evan shrugged. I learned from necessity. Out here, you can't wait for perfect tools or instructions. You do what works. They moved in silence for a while, listening to the distant echoes of the valley. Occasionally, a piece of metal would shift, or the wind would carry a strange sound. Evan's senses were on edge. He had survived here before, but never with someone like Kara beside him. So, Kara said after a long pause, you saved me. Why? Evan hesitated. I told you. Leaving someone to die isn't right. Doesn't matter if they are human or not. Kara looked at him with an intensity that made him uneasy. Among my people, that is not common. You risked your life for me. You could have been killed. Maybe, Evan said, but I didn't see anyone else in danger, and it didn't feel like much of a choice. Kara nodded slowly. Your kind is unpredictable. That is dangerous and valuable. They walked through the ruins, navigating around deep craters and burned-out machines. Evan noticed Kara moving with purpose. Sometimes she would pause, scan the sky, or make a subtle gesture with her fingers. He assumed she was planning their route or watching for danger. Yet something about the gestures seemed secretive, almost like she was talking to someone he couldn't see. Hours passed. Evan was tired, but he tried not to show it. Kara moved as if fatigue was unknown to her. At one point she stopped and crouched behind a twisted piece of metal. Evan followed. They are closing in, she said. Her voice was calm, but there was an edge of concern. Scanners. They are looking for me, and they will not stop. Evan's heart beat faster. What do they want with you? Kara shook her head. Enemies. My enemies. I cannot tell you much. Evan nodded. He had learned that asking too many questions now could be dangerous. She would tell him if it became necessary. Suddenly, the ground vibrated lightly. A faint rumble, like distant engines. Kara stood instantly, moving with speed and precision. Evan struggled to keep up. They are here, she said. We must move quickly. Evan followed her into a narrow tunnel between the remains of two massive war machines. The air inside was cooler, the darkness almost complete. Kara moved without making a sound, leading him through twists and turns until they reached a small clearing inside the wreckage. Evan crouched behind a piece of metal, catching his breath. Kara stood ahead of him, scanning the area. "We cannot stay," she said. "They will find us if we are careless." "I know," Evan said. "But where do we go?" Kara's eyes narrowed. "There is a place. Hidden. They will not find it easily." They moved again, slower this time, more carefully. The valley seemed alive with danger. Shadows shifted. Pieces of debris fell. Every step could reveal them to enemy scouts. As they walked, Evan noticed Kara's strength and skill. She could move over rubble, climb over broken walls, and land without making a sound. Her arm, the one he had healed, did not falter once. Her recovery was faster than anything he had seen before. "Your wound," Evan said softly. "It healed very fast." "Are you always like this?" Kara glanced at him. "We train for endurance and survival. Pain slows the body, weakens the mind. We learn to overcome it." Evan nodded, impressed. "I guess humans have some tricks too. Sometimes we survive by thinking differently, not stronger." Kara studied him again. "Your methods are strange, yet they work." "That is interesting." They moved in silence again, the tension in the air almost suffocating. Evan could feel the weight of her presence. She was not just a warrior. There was something more. Authority. Power. He could feel it in every measured step she took. As night fell completely, they reached a small alcove between two massive metal structures. Kara crouched, signaling Evan to do the same. "They will search," she said. "Tonight, they will scan the valley and move carefully. They expect nothing. That is their weakness." Evan listened, trying to hear anything beyond the quiet of the wind. Nothing. Only the distant echoes of the valley. Kara moved closer to him. "You have shown courage, human. Not just in saving me, but in surviving here. You are adaptable. That is rare." Evan felt a strange mixture of pride and unease. "Thanks, I guess. I just try to survive." Kara's eyes softened slightly. "Survival is not enough for my people. You have more than that." Observation. Thinking ahead. Risk assessment. You are useful. Evan was not sure how to respond. He had survived many battles, faced worse enemies, but never felt like this. The calm strength of Kara, the quiet danger of the valley, the knowledge that someone powerful was near and owed him life, all of it pressed on him. Hours passed. They stayed hidden, the dark covering them like a cloak. Occasionally, distant sounds reminded them that the enemy was near. Kara whispered instructions to Evan, teaching him subtle ways to move silently, watch shadows, and anticipate danger. Even though she was an alien, the lessons were simple, clear, and effective. Evan realized that she was training him without him fully noticing. Her gestures, small movements, even the way she positioned herself were lessons in survival. Then a sudden sound cut through the night, a metallic clatter from the distance. Both of them froze. The sound echoed through the valley. "They are close," Kara said. Her hand moved to the small weapon at her side, though she did not draw it. Evan's heart raced. He had no weapon like hers, only his utility blade and some improvised tools, but he trusted her instincts. If she said danger was near, it was. They moved again, faster now, but still careful. Kara led him through hidden paths, under fallen structures, and across shallow craters. Every step was calculated, every movement precise. Evan had never felt so aware of his surroundings. After some time, they reached a small, hidden chamber inside the wreckage. It was safe for now. Kara sat, breathing slowly. Evan joined her, trying to calm his racing heart. "You are strong human," Kara said quietly. Stronger than I expected." Evan shook his head. "I'm just lucky. And alive." She tilted her head slightly. "Luck is not the same as survival. You make choices that preserve life. That is strength." Evan did not respond immediately. He realized that in all the chaos and all the death around them, he had made choices that mattered, choices that had saved someone powerful, someone who could change the course of many lives. "Do you trust me?" Kara asked suddenly. Evan looked at her. Her eyes were sharp, serious. Trust was a heavy word, but he nodded slowly. "I think I have to. I don't have much choice out here." A small smile appeared on Kara's face. Good. Then we survived together. That is all that matters now. The night passed slowly. Evan learned more about Kara without her saying much. Her gestures, her calmness, her reactions to the smallest sounds, they all told him that she was not just a warrior, but a leader. A protector. Someone used to being in command. By the time dawn approached, the valley began to light up with the first pale rays of sun. Evan and Kara were ready to move again. Their night in hiding had strengthened their bond, and Evan realized he understood her more than he expected. Kara rose first, testing her arm. We must move. There is more to do, and more danger coming. I have enemies who will not stop until I am claimed. Evan stood beside her, steady, despite exhaustion. Then let's keep moving. Together. Kara looked at him, then nodded. Together, human. You will see what it means to survive, by my side. They stepped out into the ruins of the valley, ready to face whatever came next. The sun was rising, casting long shadows across the broken land. Danger was still near, but for now, they moved with purpose and silent understanding. Each step was a test, each decision a measure of skill and courage, and Evan knew that what he did next could change not just his life, but the fate of someone very important, someone he had healed, and who had unknowingly changed his own path forever. The sun climbed higher, casting harsh light over the ash valley. The ground was a mix of ash and jagged metal, and the smell of burned earth hung thick in the air. Evan and Kara moved carefully, alert to every sound, every movement. The events of the previous night had changed something between them. Evan had learned to follow her lead, but now he noticed subtle hints that Kara's role was far greater than she had admitted. They reached the edge of a shattered ridge, and Kara paused. Her eyes scanned the horizon, sharp and unblinking. Evan noticed that her attention was not on the dangers of the valley below, but on something far beyond it. He waited quietly, unsure whether to speak. Finally, Kara turned to him. Evan, you need to know the truth. Evan raised an eyebrow. About what? She took a deep breath, her gaze distant. I am not just a warrior. I am a leader, a ruler of a people who span stars. I am their queen. Evan blinked. The words seemed impossible. He had helped a stranger, an alien warrior, and now she claimed to be royalty. A queen, he asked, his voice low. All this? You're a queen? Kara nodded slowly. Yes. The wound you healed, it was meant to be fatal. My enemies knew it. They believed that if I died, my empire would crumble. But you saved me. Evan stared at her, trying to absorb the reality. A queen. He had saved a queen. The implications were enormous. He was just a human, a simple medic, in a distant valley, yet he had changed the fate of a star empire with his actions. Kara's gaze softened slightly. Among my people, life debts are sacred. You have saved more than a body. You have saved the future. Evan shook his head. I didn't know who you were. I just did what I thought was right. You acted without fear, Kara said. That is rare among your kind. Humans are unpredictable. That is why you survived, and why you will matter in the days to come. Evan felt a mixture of pride and fear. Pride because he had saved someone important. Fear because the enemies she spoke of were still out there hunting her. And now he realized he was involved in something far bigger than himself. Kara gestured toward the valley below. We must move. My enemies are close. They will not stop until I am claimed or killed. You will need to trust me completely, Evan. Evan nodded. I will. I have no choice anyway. They descended carefully into the valley, using the broken terrain as cover. The ground was uneven, and debris made every step dangerous. Evan followed Kara's lead, noting how she moved with precision and control. Her earlier injuries seemed to have left no mark. Her arm moved fluidly, her strength restored almost completely. As they walked, Kara explained fragments of the situation. There was a coup, she said quietly. Some within my empire sought to remove me from power. They sent assassins and spies. I was wounded in the attempt. Now they will not rest until I am either dead or captured. Evan listened carefully. He did not interrupt, understanding that the details were sensitive. Every piece of information was important, yet he sensed that Kara was holding back the full truth. There was more she could not say, and he did not press. In moments like this, silence could be as valuable as knowledge. Suddenly a faint hum rose in the air. Kara froze, her body tense. Evan followed her gaze. In the distance, a small group of alien scouts moved through the ruins, their armor reflecting the light in a sharp, metallic gleam. They have found our trail, Kara whispered. We must move quickly. Evan's heart raced. He had faced dangers before, but this was different. These were trained hunters seeking a queen. He had no armor, no advanced weapons, only his wits and his small blade. Kara led him through a narrow path between the wrecks. They moved silently, the scouts unaware of their presence. Evan tried to keep up, following her every move, noticing how she calculated each step, each shadow, each piece of debris. After some time, they reached a partially destroyed building. Kara gestured for him to stay back. She moved forward, her figure disappearing into the shadows. Evan watched, holding his breath. Then, without warning, a trap triggered. Alarms, silent to him, echoed in the air. Kara reacted instantly, leaping into the open and using a combination of precise movements and martial skill to disable the traps. Evan barely had time to register what was happening. She was incredible, faster and stronger than he had imagined. She moved with authority, controlling the situation completely. Once the immediate danger was over, Kara returned to him. "Do not be afraid," she said. "We are not yet safe, but I have controlled the immediate threat. Your presence may attract attention, so we must remain vigilant." Evan nodded. "I will follow your lead." They moved on, deeper into the ruins, using hidden passages in areas covered by shadows. Every step felt tense, every sound could be a warning. Evan noticed that even small actions like the placement of a hand or the angle of a foot carried meaning for Kara. She was a master of awareness, and he realized he had much to learn from her. Hours passed. The sun began to fall, casting long shadows across the valley. Evan was exhausted, but he kept moving. Kara seemed unaffected by the long journey, her strength seemingly limitless. Yet he could see the tension in her jaw, the subtle flicker of concern in her eyes. She was aware of more threats than he could imagine. Finally, they reached a secluded clearing. Kara gestured for him to sit, and she knelt beside him. Her gaze softened, and for the first time she allowed herself a moment of vulnerability. "You have shown bravery, Evan," she said. "Not just in saving me, but in surviving beside me. That is not easy." Many would have faltered. Evan swallowed. "I'm just a medic. I do what I can. You're amazing. I've never seen anyone like you." Kara's eyes glimmered with a mixture of appreciation and something Evan could not name. "Among my people, saving a queen binds us. You have saved more than a life, Evan. You have changed the future." He felt the weight of her words. He had saved her, yes, but he had no idea of the consequences until now. He realized that he was involved in a story far bigger than himself, a story that could affect entire worlds. Night fell over the valley. Stars appeared, scattered across the sky like points of light in the darkness. Evan and Kara stayed in the clearing, cautious, aware of the dangers still lurking. She taught him subtle ways to watch the sky, to read the shadows, to notice even the faintest movements. He realized that survival depended on more than strength. It depended on perception, patience, and understanding. They stayed quiet, listening to the sounds of the valley. Every distant echo, every shift in the wind could be a warning. Evan began to notice the small gestures Kara made, the flick of her wrist, the angle of her head, the way she positioned her body. He learned more from her actions than her words. Hours passed, and Evan felt a strange bond forming. Not just trust, but Kara was no longer a stranger, no longer just an alien warrior. She was someone who depended on him as much as he depended on her. Suddenly, a faint signal lit up from her armor. Evan did not notice, but Kara's eyes flicked briefly to it. She moved to a better position, silent and deliberate, as if aware that the signal might draw attention. Evan followed without question. He trusted her instinct completely. By dawn, the valley was bathed in pale light. Evan and Kara prepared to move again. The night had been long, tense, and revealing. Evan knew that he had survived because of her guidance, but he also understood that he had contributed, that his decisions had mattered. Kara rose, testing her arm and scanning the horizon. "We must move. The valley is not safe, and there are more dangers ahead. My enemies will not give up." Evan stood beside her, ready. "Then we go. Together." She looked at him, her eyes sharp and commanding. "Together, human. You will see the path ahead, but you will follow wisely." They stepped forward, leaving the clearing behind. The sun rose higher, illuminating the broken world around them. Every step carried risk. Every choice mattered. And Evan realized that this journey was only beginning. He had saved a queen, and now he would see what it meant to survive and fight alongside her. The fate of a life, a kingdom, and perhaps more, depended on them both. The day was bright, but the Ash Valley still carried the shadows of destruction. Evan and Kara moved carefully through the wreckage, each step measured. The sound of wind was sharp in his ears, and every broken piece of metal looked like it could hide an enemy. Evan had never been this tense before. He had fought, survived storms, and faced dangerous creatures, but now, beside Kara, everything felt sharper, more dangerous. Kara led him through a narrow passage between two massive broken machines. She moved silently, her eyes scanning every corner. Evan tried to match her pace, but his steps made small noises. Kara glanced back at him, her eyes sharp, almost warning him, yet also patient. He adjusted his steps, learning from her movements. "Your people are unpredictable," she said quietly, her gaze never leaving the path ahead. "That is why humans are both dangerous and valuable." Evan tried to speak, but she continued before he could reply. "My enemies will try to find us again today. They will test every route, every opening. You must be alert." Evan nodded. He felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. Fear because danger was near, excitement because he was seeing a side of the universe he had never imagined. He had saved a queen, yes, but now he realized he was part of something much bigger. As they moved, Kara explained more about the situation. "Not all my people agreed with the coup. Some are loyal, some are not. You may see both today. You must understand that appearances can be misleading." Evan listened, trying to absorb every word. The valley was dangerous enough, but the politics Kara described added another layer of risk. He had to trust her completely, or they might not survive. Suddenly, a shadow moved across a distant ridge. Kara froze, her body tense. Evan followed her gaze and saw several figures moving, scanning the valley. They were armored and clearly armed. He realized immediately that these were not random scavengers or animals. They were sent to hunt her. "They have found us," Kara whispered. Her voice was calm, but the tension was clear. "We must use the terrain. Follow my lead." They moved quickly but silently, slipping behind wreckage and using shadows as cover. Evan noticed Kara's skill in navigating danger. Every move was precise, calculated. She knew exactly where to step, where to hide, and how to anticipate the enemy's actions. The figures on the ridge stopped and scanned the area. One of them raised a small device that hummed softly. Evan realized it was a scanner. Kara reacted instantly, motioning him to hide behind a broken wall. They crouched low as the beam swept over them. Evan held his breath. The beam passed over the wall and moved on. Kara's eyes never left the ridge. "We are not safe yet," she said. "They will come closer." He followed her lead, moving with caution. The valley seemed alive with danger. Every sound, every shadow, every piece of debris could be a threat. Evan realized that he had to think like Kara to survive. Observing, predicting, reacting before danger arrived. Hours passed. They moved through hidden paths, always careful, always alert. Kara taught him small tricks: how to notice footprints in ash, how to listen for changes in wind, how to use the landscape to their advantage. Evan absorbed everything, realizing that survival was not just about strength but understanding the world around him. They reached a small alcove between two large fallen machines. Kara signaled him to sit. "We need to rest," she said. "But only briefly. They are still searching." Evan sat, breathing heavily. The tension of constant movement and threat weighed on him. Kara remained standing, scanning the surroundings. She seemed unaffected by fatigue, but he noticed a small line of concern on her face. Even the strongest could feel pressure. "You are learning quickly," Kara said. "Humans adapt. That is rare among weaker species." Evan chuckled softly despite the danger. "I'm trying. I don't want to get us killed." Kara smiled faintly. "You may surprise yourself, Evan. Survival is not always about weapons. Observation and quick thinking matter more." As they rested, a distant noise reached them. Evan's heart jumped. Kara's hand moved to a small device on her belt. She pressed a button, and a faint signal sent a pulse into the air. Evan realized she was alerting someone, though he could not understand the signal. "They know I am here," Kara said quietly. "But my loyalists will delay them. We have a chance." Evan nodded, though he did not fully understand. He trusted her judgment completely. Kara was strong, skilled, and confident. He had no choice but to follow. The sun began to set, casting long shadows across the valley. Evan and Kara moved again, slipping through hidden routes, avoiding the open areas. Every step was a test, every choice a risk. Yet he felt more confident. Kara's lessons, her guidance, had sharpened his senses. He could anticipate danger more quickly now. Suddenly an ambush appeared. Several armored figures emerged from behind a fallen machine. Evan froze for a moment, but Kara acted instantly. She moved with precision, disabling 2 attackers with swift strikes. Evan followed her lead, using his blade to block a blow and push an enemy away. The battle was short but intense. Kara's skill and experience were unmatched. Evan realized that no training he had received could compare to what she had learned over years of combat. Yet, despite the danger, he felt a thrill, an understanding that he could survive if he stayed alert and followed her lead. After the ambush, Kara checked Evan for injuries. He had a few scratches, but nothing serious. She looked at him with a mixture of approval and concern. "You did well," she said. "Not perfect, but well enough." Evan smiled, despite the adrenaline. "Thanks. I'm alive, aren't I?" Kara nodded. "Yes, but survival is more than being alive. You must learn to predict, to act before danger reaches you. That is why I am teaching you." They moved on, deeper into the valley. Night fell, and the temperature dropped. They stayed close, each aware of the other. Evan realized that he had never trusted anyone like this before. Kara was more than a guide or protector. She was a teacher, a leader, someone whose presence commanded respect. As the night grew darker, distant noises reminded them that enemies were still near. Kara whispered instructions, teaching Evan how to move silently, how to hide in the shadows, how to anticipate attacks. He followed her lead, learning quickly. He realized that survival depended on more than strength. It depended on understanding, observation, and quick thinking. Hours passed. They moved carefully, never stopping for long. Evan felt the tension in his body, the constant alertness. Yet he also felt a strange confidence. He could survive with Kara, and maybe even learn enough to protect her if needed. Finally, they reached a hidden area, a small natural cave that offered some shelter. Kara gestured for Evan to sit, and she remained standing, scanning the valley. "You are learning quickly," she said quietly. "Humans have value beyond what I imagined. Your presence matters." Evan looked at her, understanding the gravity of her words. He had saved a queen, and now he was learning to survive alongside her, to protect her if necessary. The weight of responsibility pressed on him, but he felt ready. Together, they could face whatever dangers remained in the valley. Kara lowered herself beside him, her gaze fixed on the shadows outside. "Tomorrow we move again. My enemies are relentless, but so are we. Trust me, Evan. Your actions today will matter more than you realize." Evan nodded. He understood now that this journey was bigger than either of them alone. It was about survival, yes, but also about loyalty, courage, and the choices they made. He had saved a queen, and now he would walk beside her through danger, learning, surviving, and preparing for the challenges that lay ahead. The night was quiet, but the valley held its secrets. Evan and Kara rested, alert yet calm, knowing that each moment of survival brought them closer to the future they had to face together. And Evan realized that he was no longer just a human lost in a dangerous world. He was part of something greater, part of a story that could change the fate of a queen, her empire, and maybe even the galaxy itself. The night in Ash Valley was cold and still, but danger lingered everywhere. Evan and Kara moved cautiously, alert to every sound. The distant hum of alien scanners reminded them that enemies were near. They could not afford mistakes. Every step, every breath mattered. Kara led him over broken metal and ash, guiding him through narrow paths and shadows. Evan followed, trying to match her quiet, precise movements. He had learned much from her over the past days. How to listen to the wind, notice footprints in the dust, and read the slightest movement of shadows. Yet he still felt the tension of being in an alien battlefield with a queen. They paused briefly on a ridge overlooking the valley. Kara studied the terrain, her sharp eyes tracing possible routes for enemies. "We must cross the open field ahead," she said. "It is risky, but it is the fastest way to safety. We must move now." Evan swallowed. The open field looked wide, littered with broken machines and burned earth. Any movement would be visible to scouts or drones. "I understand," he said. "We just need to be fast and careful." Kara nodded. "We move together. Trust your instincts and follow mine." They advanced slowly, using shadows and fallen debris for cover. Evan noticed Kara's skill in making herself almost invisible against the broken terrain. Every step was calculated, every movement deliberate. She paused occasionally to signal him to stop or shift position, her gestures silent but clear. Suddenly they heard movement in the distance. Figures emerged from the shadows, scouts from the enemy. Kara froze, crouching low. Evan did the same. His heart raced, but he kept his focus. "They will try to cut us off," Kara whispered. "We must anticipate their approach." Using the terrain, Kara led Evan through a series of subtle paths, hiding behind wreckage and using dips in the ground. The scouts moved closer, unaware of their precise location. Evan marveled at Kara's ability to predict their movements and plan escape routes with such accuracy. Then the unexpected happened. A group of enemy soldiers appeared directly in their path, blocking the way forward. Evan's heart skipped a beat. They were too many to fight directly. Kara's expression hardened. "We have no choice. Follow my lead." She moved swiftly, striking with precision, using her strength and skill to disable the nearest enemies. Evan tried to follow, using his blade to block attacks and push aside anyone who came too close. They moved together like a single unit, covering each other as they advanced through the chaos. The battle was intense but short. Kara's experience and speed were unmatched. Evan realized that human tactics combined with her skill allowed them to outmaneuver the larger, more heavily armed group. They escaped through a narrow gap in the wreckage, leaving the enemy confused and disoriented. Breathing heavily, Evan looked at Kara. "That worked better than I thought it would." Kara's eyes were focused, scanning for further threats. Luck helps, but preparation and observation save lives. They continued across the field, moving as fast as they could without drawing attention. Evan noticed that Kara was constantly aware of everything. The sound of the wind, the position of distant objects, the tiniest movement that might indicate danger. Hours passed. They moved carefully, sometimes crawling through narrow passages, sometimes running across short distances. Evan was exhausted, but he kept going, knowing that stopping could be deadly. Eventually, they reached a ridge overlooking a hidden valley, a place Kara had scouted earlier. "This is where we rest," she said. "For a short time. We cannot stay long, but we can regain our strength." Evan lowered himself to the ground, taking deep breaths. Kara stood, scanning the area. Even when resting, she seemed aware of everything, every detail. He realized that this constant vigilance was necessary, that a single mistake could cost them both their lives. "You are learning quickly," Kara said softly. "Your instincts improve. Humans are unpredictable, yes, but that can be an advantage." Evan smiled faintly. "I've learned from the best teacher." Kara gave a small smile in return. "Then use that knowledge. It may save you again." They rested briefly, eating small rations. Kara shared water, and Evan noticed how careful she was to maintain their limited resources. Every decision was measured, calculated, necessary. Suddenly, a signal flashed from Kara's device. She glanced at it quickly. "The enemy is regrouping," she said. "They will attempt another approach soon. We must move again before dawn." Evan rose, checking his gear. He felt the tension building, knowing that the next hours could be even more dangerous. Kara's enemies were relentless, but so were they. The Queen he had saved and the human medic worked as a team, each relying on the other. As they moved through the hidden valley, Kara explained the strategy. "We cannot fight them all at once. We use deception. They expect straightforward paths. We create traps and distractions. Your knowledge of terrain will help." Evan nodded, understanding his role. He was not just following. He was part of the plan. His human intuition, combined with Kara's skill, could turn the tide. Dawn approached, painting the valley in pale light. They moved quickly, using the last shadows to cover their advance. Scouts appeared again, but Kara anticipated their positions. Evan followed her lead, laying minor traps and using debris to confuse the enemy. The plan worked. Confused, the enemy forces collided with their own traps. Some were caught, others hesitated, and the human's presence gave Kara the advantage of unpredictability. They advanced across the valley, reaching higher ground where the enemy could not easily follow. Evan was exhausted, but adrenaline kept him moving. He noticed Kara moving beside him, her arm still showing the faint scar of the wound he had healed. She was strong, precise, and fearless. He realized that saving her was not just about healing a body. It had changed the course of the day, and possibly much more. Finally, they reached a safe point, a hidden plateau where the valley stretched below, empty for now. Kara gestured for him to rest. "We have survived today," she said quietly. "But this is only the beginning. My enemies are still searching, but we have gained the advantage. You must understand, Evan, that your actions today have been critical. Without your presence, I may not have survived." Evan breathed heavily, looking out over the valley. He realized the gravity of her words. He had not just followed, he had acted, observed, and survived. And in doing so, he had helped protect a queen and influence the events around her. Kara studied him, her gaze serious. "Tomorrow will bring more challenges. My enemies are relentless, but so are we. Trust your instincts and trust me. Together we can face what comes next." Evan nodded, understanding fully now that survival required more than courage. It required awareness, patience, and partnership. He had saved a queen, and now he was part of her story, part of her fight, and part of a journey that could shape the fate of many. The sun rose higher, casting light over the valley. Evan and Kara rested briefly, preparing for the next steps. Danger was not gone, but for the moment they were alive. And Evan realized that being beside Kara, learning from her and surviving with her, had transformed him. He was no longer just a human lost in a dangerous world. He was part of something greater, part of a story that was only beginning. The morning air was crisp and clear, and the Ash Valley looked less hostile in the light of dawn, but Evan knew that danger had not left. Kara moved beside him, her gaze scanning the horizon, alert to the faintest hint of movement. Today was different. Today they would leave the valley and make their way toward safety, toward allies, and toward a future that depended on their choices. Evan adjusted the small pack on his back, carrying supplies, water, and the few tools he could use. He glanced at Kara. Despite the long days and nights of danger, she looked calm, focused, and prepared. Her movements were precise, and even as she scanned the valley, her posture held strength and confidence. He realized that she was not just surviving. She was leading. "You are ready," Kara said quietly, reading his expression. "We move quickly and cautiously. My enemies are aware that I survived. They will seek me relentlessly. We cannot afford mistakes." Evan nodded. "I would be so happy." He felt a mixture of nervousness and determination. He had learned so much over the past days, not just about survival, but about courage, strategy, and the importance of trust. He trusted Kara completely, and he knew she trusted him, even if he was just a human. They moved down from the ridge, using hidden paths and shadows to avoid detection. The valley stretched out before them, broken and scarred, but also full of opportunities for cover and concealment. Evan followed Kara's lead, moving silently, learning to anticipate danger and to act before threats could reach them. As they advanced, Kara explained more about the situation. "Once we leave the valley, we will reach a safe zone where my allies can help, but my enemies will not give up easily. They expect humans to be weak and easily scared. They are wrong." Evan smiled faintly. "I hope you are right." Kara's eyes softened briefly. "I have seen your strength. You adapt quickly. That is what keeps you alive, and it may save others as well." They reached a narrow pass where the enemy could easily ambush them. Kara signaled him to stop and crouch. She moved forward silently, surveying the area, noting hidden threats, and planning their route. Evan waited, holding his breath, watching her movements closely. Every gesture, every glance taught him something new about awareness and survival. Suddenly, distant sounds reached them. Footsteps, faint but deliberate. Kara's hand moved to a small device on her belt, sending a signal. Evan realized she was calling for backup. Loyalists of her empire would arrive soon to delay the approaching enemies. "They are coming," Kara whispered. "We move when the first group arrives. You must follow exactly. Timing is everything." Evan nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. He had learned that in moments like these, hesitation could be fatal. Kara moved with the precision of a seasoned warrior, and he matched her pace, ready to act as needed. The first wave of enemies appeared, scanning the pass for threats. Kara reacted instantly, using her skill and speed to disable the nearest attackers, while Evan used debris and the terrain to mislead the others. Together, they created confusion, delaying the enemy and allowing loyalists to engage from a distance. Evan realized the difference between human tactics and alien combat. Kara combined both, using skill, observation, and intelligence to outmaneuver opponents. He followed her lead, contributing where he could, and feeling the thrill of survival in the midst of chaos. The battle was tense but brief. Kara's enemies were skilled, but their overconfidence worked against them. The human unpredictability, combined with Kara's precision, turned the tide. The Loyalists arrived as planned, providing the final support needed to secure the area. Breathing heavily, Evan looked at Kara. She had fought, led, and survived without faltering. The small scar on her arm reminded him of the first moment they met. He had healed her then, but now he realized that healing had been the start of something much larger. "You have done well," Kara said, her voice calm but strong. "Your actions today have been critical. You adapted, followed, and contributed. That is not easy for someone untrained in this world." Evan shook his head. "I just tried to survive." "And follow your lead." Kara's eyes softened. "You did more than that. You saved more than a life. You saved the chance for a future." As they moved forward, the valley behind them grew smaller, and the landscape ahead promised allies and safety. Evan realized that his journey with Kara had transformed him. He was no longer just a human lost in a dangerous world. He had become a partner, a protector, and part of a story that could change the fate of many. They reached a hidden route that would take them out of the valley. Kara led him carefully, teaching him as they went. Evan followed, learning to anticipate danger, to read shadows, and to act without hesitation. He realized that survival was not just about strength, but about awareness, patience, and partnership. Finally, they emerged from the valley and entered a safer region where the Loyalists had prepared shelters and supplies. Kara paused, looking back at the valley one last time. "We have survived," she said, "but this is only the beginning. My enemies will regroup, but so will we. And humans, you have value beyond what I imagined." Evan looked around, feeling the weight of everything they had endured. He had saved the queen, fought alongside her, learned from her, and survived. The journey had changed him, sharpened him, and made him aware of his own courage and potential. Kara turned to him. "Evan, your presence matters. Your choices, your actions, they are important. Remember that. You have saved a life, a queen, and the future of many. That is no small thing." Evan nodded, understanding fully now. He had been a simple human medic, and now he was part of a larger story, one that would continue beyond the valley. He realized that survival, courage, and trust were connected, and that his bond with Kara was a key part of what would come next. The sun rose higher, casting light over the safe area. Evan and Kara rested briefly, preparing for the next stage of their journey. Danger was not gone, but they had survived together, learned from each other, and created a partnership that could face what lay ahead. Evan looked at Kara, her figure strong and unyielding. He remembered the moment he had healed her wound, and how that simple act had set everything in motion. Now he understood that the choice to help, to act, to trust, had led them both to this point, and he knew that the journey was only beginning, with the queen he had saved and the future they would face together.